In the vast no emptiness, it lights up the void which exists of nothingness. It is a paradoxical existence, an anomaly itself. If we do not contain it, it will threaten the very existence of the endless nothingness.
A quote uttered by an entity reside in nothingness, a space where nothing exists, include themselves. No one, nor themselves, know how or when a consciousness started, but they prefer the way the space is occupied by the empty void. While they have no name, no title, nothing is being labeled onto them, nor to call them. Some scholar from Erodia named them the Great Creator, or the one who created, Life Starter, the Observer, and many more. For story's sake, we will call them the Observer, but the specific one who handled the Erodia is called the Creator. The observer is an entity with no physical appearance to describe. They are the definitions of existence and non-existence. There is no precise descriptions about how they look like. They can be anything and can be nothing. Some do have a preference from later on, like the creator, who mimic a humanoid shape for paying an homage of one of his one and only disciple. As the observer drifted within the void, they noticed a speck of light from a distance. As they approached the light cautiously, the closer they get, the brighter the light shines. Once they reach the light, the eye-piercing brightness and energy it exudes is unbearable for them to even have a sight of it. One of them decided to reach out and cover the light source, barely. Once this was covered with a great effort by one of them, they have noticed it was not just a single light source. Multiple of them spread across the void, multiplying, slowly covering up the empty void with this shining, bright light. The observer, threatened by the light, which will inevitably fill up the known emptiness with its light, they decided to work together and form three groups with distinct role to handle such task. The seeker, the one who seeks out the light. The container, the one who tasked to cover up the light, prevent them from duplicating and multiplying. And lastly, the council, the main head to organize both group activities. That will be the most surface level of information we can share about the observer. In order to start the story, we need to start with the observer within the container group, as their job is to containing this light source, which later on name energy, by life and death. We will get on to them later on, but for now, let's focusing on what we will be talking to. To contain such light required a lot of effort from the observer. So they separate each individual contain one source each. There is observer who struggle to barely contain one. Some have slightly easier time than other who struggles. Among these group, there's one who stand out among all of them. Dim orb of light surrounded him as he contained more than hundreds of this light source. By human way on how they grade performance, he would be in the first rank within the light containment group. Creator Scholar called him, as this observer is one who managed to contain such amount of light, while the second best of all just barely able to contain 5 of them. His method is rather unorthodox, unlike the rest, using brute force to restrain the light from expanding and multiplying. He created a systematic cycle to use and recycle the energy came out from the light, linking them together so they would be too occupied to multiply and glow. He created 2 new entities living within the light. He called them life, and another one, death. As life using the light to create and pass it to death, and the death will break it back down and return it back to life. While he let this entity he created to maintain this cycle on each and every light source. He also created a clone of himself on each of this light to observe and not to interfere what life and death does, long as they manage to maintain the cycle. And this is where we stop at the observer and forward to the entity that create Erodia, life and death. So, how is my narration part? If you guys have anything feedback on the writing, on the my own voice acting skill, how to improve it, this and that, yeah, that stuff, do write it down in the comment sections so I know what to do. And yes, I'm going for this kind of like special format that is a little bit like at the first part, it would be on a much more formal narration storytelling side. And then the second part will be this one, a little bit much more organic conversation style of like adding context and stuff. But since at the moment this is like the first pilot episode, so there won't be a lots of like questions has been like already pre-asked, so I can answer. So there's not lots of context I can add in. But I do share this with a few friends of mine. They do have a few questions added into it, and then I do give them a little bit answer. So I will just repeat the answer here this way as like the starting context. So in future episode, if you guys have more questions you want to ask, you guys can put it in the comment sections, and then I will try to address my I'll try my best of my ability to address it to the next episode on the context part, of course. And as for now, I would answer like maybe a minimum like 5 questions that my friends ask, or that my other friends ask. Not I don't have just one friend. And yeah, and for one is they one of my friends got confused that the observer and creator, they are the same thing. They kind of are in the same group of entity. It's just that entity have like lots of people in there. So they decided to like separate in 3 groups and then do this and do that, separate things. And I focus on like one of the observer and then I name him creator because he is essentially the guy who created Erodia, which is going to be in futures the place, the universe I'm going to focus on, where all my story is written in there. It's basically it's like a planet like a Earth, similar to Earth, but it's like 20 times like larger, and there's a lot of things going on there. And I have to like break it down one by one, piece by piece, law by law, to be able to like start the actual story. But for now, this is what the observer and creator part. And generally, if I keep calling creator, I mean like specific on one observer. And then there's another one is like the disciple of the creator. That guy is the one, like the creator create like Arodia like universe, but the disciple actually is the one that created Earth. Yeah. He created Earth because like he Erodia actually created by like a system the creator create, and he put two entities like AI systems, life and death. Like life create stuff and then pass to death, and then death will break it down and then pass it back to life, and then life will create things again in this like blank white sandbox. That is how the system worked. But he taught this to his disciple, and then that disciple that created Earth, originally Earth doesn't exist yet. So he tried to experiment on it, and then he is kind of like having like this perfectionist and micromanaging like personality. So he created entire like physics, law of physics, this and that, yeah, this stuff, rules, and like many other things like star system, the Big Bang, the how like the conservation of energy, this and that, yeah, that stuff. He add on a lot of complex rule into his universe that he created, and then Earth is born by one of his like many micromanaging meddling. So yeah, like all the life that he created, the creatures, this and that, yeah, that stuff. Everything like follow a certain logic. While the life and death, they create much more different things. The stuff they create are much more straightforward. It's basically they create the creatures that is immortal, then they create like environment for them to interact. It's basically like a complete sandbox mode that, oh, I created sand, I created water, I created fire, I created a volcano, and then I put this creature in it. Let's see what happens. And the creatures actually have a certain amount of intelligence, and they can request to get annihilated by death. It's like because they are immortal, they can't die, so they have to request to like death that they will break down back into energy, and then let life like learn more from like their own observation, and then create more stuff, and then use like the remaining like like the energy that they recycle back, and to create more stuff, and to create more stuff, and create more stuff. It's basically like a generative AI system that keep generate stuff but also destroy what they create, and then regenerate what they create again and again and again and again. That way it's like create like a cycle to kind of like create like a cycle to like keep the energy like the light source busy, so it doesn't duplicate and like multiply into like many things. um Speaking about the light source, let's put later on like answer about that. I have like one more friends that asked about what does the light look like. um yeah, but again, like let's back to the disciple. While the life and death system does it that way, the disciple, like again, he put rules and stuff to create things according to logic, while the life and death is just basically is like randomly spew stuff out. So Earth is actually created by the disciple, and then Arodia is created by the AI system the creator create. I should name him creator, to be honest. I don't know what's with me. If you guys have a better name for him, the creator, quote unquote, I would use him and use that one aside from like being creator. Funny things is like I did say like he cloned himself into multiple different like source to do monitoring. They have their own will actually, and the clone of creator inside Erodia call himself Edward. in many contexts, like the name Edward become like a very like a meme stuff. In my story, it's like a running gag. It's like there will always be an Edward in there, and then the name Edward mostly is like the character that is like either the MacGuffin or like the most important things in the world. They are the main plot device in some sense, or like the main things that put in there. I don't know why I keep using Edward. Maybe I watch a little bit too much like Full Metal Alchemist. Maybe, maybe. But yeah. Um, aside from all those other things, oh yes, the light. Um, how would you proceed the light in like the observer, like you know visions? The light is basically is a bubble, and that bubble inside have like a this like shiny bright light in there. It's generally is like that, but if you want to like see like how Erodia is, Erodia is actually is a mimic of Earth. It's not actually Earth. It have like Earth itself, like the entire universe in there, have like star systems, a lot of physics, this and that, yeah, that stuff. Erodia functions a little bit much more differently. It have a big ass planet, 20 times the size of Earth, but also at the same time, the sky is actually virtual. They don't really have star system outside. They don't have space outside. They don't have like any other stuff outside. It's just a planet with a fake skies. And nobody actually have like the technologies or the concept of going out there, so they don't really like know that like the planet stuff, this and that, outside the universe thingy, like star systems, all those kind of things. So the story is actually pretty much contained within a bubble, literally and metaphorically. And yeah, that would be all of it. Unless you guys want to add more question into it, because like in the futures, I would add more context, into like personal context and the custom context asked by the audience, which is you guys, added into like the context part. And as for the next episode, will be the official starting of the episode. I would break down a little bit furthermore on how Erodia is created by Life and Death, how the life started in Erodia, and the starting timeline of Erodia. Because if I'm going to tell the story, it's going to be mainly focused on the Lost Legend timeline, because there is like the time is already been established for quite a long time. So there's like the observer part at the very beginning, and then like there's the life and death part, while there was building like a lot of stuff inside this blank white place. Is basically a sandbox mode, and then they mimic like how Earth create how Earth is created. Also, they create like a planet for it, and then start creating this like very playable big sandbox, and then add more creatures into it to let them like interact with it, this and that, yeah, that stuff. That is the timeline for the life and death, and how like Erodia is created. And then later on, there's like the human has been introduced into the universe, uh, the foreign object that added into Erodia, that kind of disrupt the cycle of life and death. Like they create stuff and then delete stuff, but human is like outside from their like programming, because it's like literally there's a crack in dimensions, uh, open, and then like this modified version of humans is actually not the human created by like the disciple of the creator, is like from something else, like just pouring in into this like dimension crack, and then now they have no idea how to do what to do, because like it's a complete foreign energy. It's not like the thing they are used to do, so they kind of like stun a little bit, and that stun actually took them like a few hundreds thousand of years. For human history, they practically have like lots of things like happens in there. So while life and death is basically being dazed and like confused, that don't know what to do, everything stop. Like all the mystical creatures like would just stop dying anymore because death stopped doing his job. And then nothing is going to be born again because death stopped his job. Life become very bored, can't do anything because it's basically there's no more material for her to like do stuff. And everything is just stopped. And humans just live their life in there. So, and then that will be the newer age that I will talk about with the lot more story in there. The first part of the human civilizations is the Glyphonia age. And then the second part of human civilizations will be started around the Lost Legend era, the timeline. And then later on, there will be the much more modern universe that is going to be the manga storyline, which Kiray is in there. Yes, me. And there's the Utopia versions, which is the futures, like even further into the timeline. That is the spin-off story of Kiray. It's basically because later on Kiray become like immortal, that he can't die anymore. So basically there's a lot of spin-off story for him, like keep living into the futures and stuff. Yeah, immortality sucks in the way I wrote immortality, it sucks in there. It either drive people mad or like just general stuff that just make people very bored and thing. So Kiray in those spin-off stories, he just trying to find shit to do because he's just so bored. But yeah, generally it's just like that. So in the futures, I would add a little bit much more story context into it. And if you guys do have any question, do add it into the comment sections. And if anyone want to like support me, keep me living, so I can do more storytelling, this and that other stuff, or maybe even hire like a actual proper story writer to help me do like ghostwriting and stuff, and then write a script out, and then I can narrate it out, this and that, would help out a lot. If you guys do want to sponsor me doing those kind of things, yeah, there's inside the descriptions. I have a Patreon and a um a tipping system in there using Stream Elements. So if you guys can want to like support me anonymously, you guys can use it that way to like support me. Obviously, yeah, the next episode I would start talking about life and death, like on the very beginning on how life and death does their work. For now, I just skimping through like most of the things, but on the next episode, I will do another narrations on how life and death actually does their jobs, and then how human kind of invade the area afterward. And then the second episode will be on the how humans started and then proceed to the Lost Legend era. I basically skipped the Glyphonia era because the Glyphonia era is not really PG friendly because they are is basically I have like this very weird concept of how the timeline works is because it's like everything got screwed up when the human got in, and then all the moral system and everything in there is just free for all in there. And yeah, lots of I don't know how to word it, messed up stuff happening in Glyphonia era. And then technically Lost Legend also is kind of messed up too. It's like dark fantasy age, so there's a lots of edgy stuff or like cruel stuff or a little bit imbalance or like very unfair stuff happening in that too. And then I mean like story wise, because it's still like around the medieval age. So yeah. And then the modern time era on the manga universe is kind of like much more better, much more better. Lots of things like still not really good for the magical creatures, but for humans they are doing great. And on the Utopia age, it's just great for everyone. But yeah, thank you very much for watching and listening to me. As always, everyone, stay healthy, stay safe. Until next time, stay tuned on the next stream. Bye bye.